views and opinions expressed in this podcast by the host or the guest do not necessarily reflect the views of Paranormal Buzz Radio or its sponsors. Use of any material produced by Paranormal Buzz Radio without express written consent is strictly prohibited. For information on everything Paranormal Buzz Radio has to offer, visit our website, paranormalbuzzradio.com. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to Exploring the Unknown with Rebecca and Shay. Taking stories from today's news, Rebecca and Shay will explore everything from the paranormal, supernatural, the strange and unusual, unsolved mysteries, and more. Join them as they delve deep into the unknown and mysterious. Taken from news headlines. Water cooler chat with a paranormal twist. Only on Paranormal Buzz Radio. Hey everybody, welcome to Exploring the Unknown with Rebecca and Shay. I'm Shay Carroll.
And I'm Rebecca Williamson.
I'm very excited. We're talking about part 2 of Smiley Face Killers. How about you?
Yeah, I'm excited. This is a really interesting story. I was talking about it over the weekend, and I was like, oh, you gotta listen to this, because it was kind of really, really interesting.
It is. And we got a lot of positive feedback on it, so everybody that reached out, we really appreciate it.
Yeah. It's nice to know people are listening.
I know, right? Because sometimes I wonder.
And appreciating as well.
Yeah. Hey. Before we get into that, how was the psychic fair of the weekend?
Oh, it was awesome. Lot of people that we knew. Allison and Kim from REP Paranormal, and of course Chris Nielsen and Kelly McCarville from Traveler's Moon. And Cynthia and Darren. So yeah, we had a lot of Paranormal Buzz people there. It was a lot of fun. Just getting together and being together in person is amazing.
I was going to say, seeing people like in real life.
Yeah. And there was a nice crowd, not super crowded, but nice crowd of people there, which is, I don't know, after last year, it's nice to see people in person.
Right. I saw all the tables with the hand sanitizer, and so safety precautions were taken.
Yep. They spaced all the booths out, so there was a lot of social distancing space, and if you were up walking around, you wore masks. And
yeah. So
yeah, it was good.
I can't wait to get back to that point.
Right?
It's coming close. Okay, so part 2. Woohoo!
Yeah, part 2. So this article, this is our second article about this one. This one is 5 chilling details that will make you believe in the Smiley Face killings. This is from January 11th of 2019 on Oxygen.com.
I doubt it will happen, but I'm really hoping this article does convince me that this is a real thing.
These are the details that will make you believe.
All right, let's find out.
Okay. Some believe the Smiley Face Killers theory is nothing more than an urban legend, but former New York Police Department detectives Kevin Gannon and Anthony Duarte are convinced that the drowning deaths of hundreds of young men are the work of a serial killer gang. For the past 20 years, Gannon and Duarte have investigated dozens of accidental or undetermined drowning cases, which they believe are homicides across the country. After finding a series of smiley face symbols painted near where the men's remains were removed, they finally had a name for the possible serial killer gang, the Smiley Face Killers. What we've determined is they're a well-structured, organized gang with cells in major cities across the United States who drug, abduct, hold the victims for a period of time alive before they murder them and then place them in the water, Gannon told Oxygen.com. Though local law enforcement and the FBI have shut down Gannon and Duarte's theory, there are a few clues from the cases that are hard to discount. These are 5 of those chilling details that just might make you believe in the Smiley Face killings.
All right, so we're going to go through each one individually, right?
Right.
All right.
Exactly. So let's see if we can be believers. Because, I mean, last week, we were kind of like, yeah, maybe. Yeah. Here we go. Number 1. Smiley face symbols. Gannon and Duarte claim that spray-painted smiley faces have been left by the killers at many of the victims' death sites. According to the former detectives, the eerie symbols differ in size, shape, and color, and some don devil horns or are accompanied by a grim message. Duarte told CNN in 2008 that he believes the smiley faces are a taunting message to police, and Gannon thinks they might signify that the murderers are laughing at the authorities. They're happy they're getting away with this, and they're getting a little more brazen, Gannon told the New York Daily News.
So on this one, we talked about it a little bit. I think we both agree that the paint's different, the symbols are different. We don't know where these men entered the water. Some of these have been up to a couple miles away, but how can you even, if you don't know definitively where they went in? Right, and it'd be one thing if it was a fresh smiley face every single time, but they're not, and that's what, if it was freshly spray painted every single time, well, that would be one thing, but when we're talking about some that of the smiley faces have been there for a while, they're not all the same. I mean, to me, to be a conclusive piece of evidence, it would be the same or extremely similar in all of them. And just because it's a smiley face doesn't necessarily say to me that, it is. I mean, maybe if it was like a symbol that wasn't seen everywhere. Because, I can go any of these podunk little towns around here and find you a smiley face. Right. So, but these aren't even, they're not the same color, size, anything. Right. There's nothing remarkable about these. Right. So, exactly. That's where I am like, I don't know about that. Yeah, so I have to discount that one. I really do. Agreed. I feel the same way about that one. Okay, so here we are. Number 2. Presence of drugs. Central to Gannon and Duarte's smiley face killer theory is the belief that the victims were abducted and drugged before their murders. The two told CNN they think the young men were given a substance that would render them unconscious and be undetected by an autopsy and toxicology report. In at least 2 cases, unexplained drugs were found in the victims' systems, including the date rape drug GHB. So again, we talked about this a little bit. Everybody has a certain amount of GHB in their body. It's a natural thing. I did a little bit more research to find out the different levels and stuff, and I'm not good with measurement, but anything 10 and under, I think they call it MMS, which is like Miller something per, right. Your blood is normal. So I have a couple points to make. And last week you heard the first story was about William Hurley, who is from Boston, Massachusetts, who was living in Boston, Massachusetts, and was found in the Charles River in 2009. And now he definitely had a high amount of GHB. According to the autopsy and according to these guys, experts, it was 18 MMS, which is way high. Right. He was the one that stumbled out of the Bruins game. Right. After having like 2 beers. But yeah, I on one hand it's like, well, obviously they picked this because it would dissolve in the system, but on the other hand it's like, well, is it really there, or are they just making it out like it is there? If it's something that's naturally occurring, it's going to show up in every body. Exactly. And this is where my problem, and I made mention of it last time, was according to them, it's high. But if they don't tell you a specific number, you can't measure it. And this is one of the things I take huge, difficulty with this case. I heard the audio myself. I think it was Gannon, I'm not sure. But they continuously say every time they can have something tested or have something retested, 100% of the time the test showed GHB in the body. But they don't say how much. And they don't say how many cases.
Right.
And when you're talking...
Another one that just seems to me to be inconclusive.
Very laughable, actually. I put next to my notes, I put LOL. Because you're talking over 300 cases, and they're using words like always, definitively, but you're not given facts, and this isn't definitively.
Right.
So.
To me, I need some facts. Show me for sure, instead of saying, yeah, I think so.
Yep. So, I'm with you there.
All right, here we go. I'm not convinced yet. Here we are. Number 3, victim profile. The majority of the alleged smiley face victims were athletic, successful students who were well liked by their peers. According to Gannon and Duarte, the young men were most likely targeted because of these traits by killers who were, quote unquote, not smart and not good in school, unemployed and unpopular. Along with their personnel similarities, all the victims disappeared after a night of drinking with friends and were later found dead in a body of water. Again, to me, this seems a pretty open-ended victim profile. I
agree. I 1,000% agree. It's just too broad.
Yeah, exactly. I would say these were also the most likely to fall in a river and drown after a night of drinking. I mean, if you look at, your most likely candidates for that, I would say they would be college-age kids, Yeah,
I agree. Reminder, guys, we're going by the overall 300 right now. We'll touch base on individual cases in a minute, but right now, they want to put out 360, 350. I've heard all kinds of numbers, but over 300 cases, then we're going to judge it all at once.
Right, and we're judging by what's written here. I mean, and maybe they have a more cohesive victim profile than what is stated here.
Not from anything I've seen, and I've done a lot of research on this.
Okay, well then I'll trust you. I was trying to give them some benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, I just can't at this point.
Okay, number 4, state of remains. In many of Gannon and Duarte's cases, the two contend that the state of the victim's remains was inconsistent with the original investigators' conclusion that they had died from an accidental or undetermined drowning. For example, when 23-year-old Dakota James was found by police in the Ohio River, his body had experienced minimal deterioration despite him being missing for 40 days. 2 weeks after 24-year-old Tommy Booth went missing, his remains were found in a previously searched Pennsylvania creek in full rigor mortis, which normally dissipates within 24 to 36 hours after death. Gannon told CNN, "I believe these young men were being abducted by individuals in the bars, taken out at some point, and held for a period of time before they're entered into the water."
Dakota James's case, I believe, can't recall detail, but I do agree. That one's another very weird one.
Yeah.
But we touched on this. If you go into a frozen river, you can't, especially us, and even cops. Yeah, they have a lot of experience, but they're not morticians, they're not the doctors, so they can't say definitively. But if you go into a frozen river, you're not gonna.
Yeah, you're not going to agree as much as if you were in a river in July.
Yeah.
I think that's obvious.
And again, a very general statement you started off with. According to the Gannon and Duarte, in many of their cases. Well, what is in many when you're referring to 300-something cases?
Right. Yeah, exactly. How many? How many were this an example? Do they have a set amount of time? I mean, missing for 40 days and then missing for 2 weeks. I don't know. To me, I need a little bit more conclusive. This is what's going on versus, I think this way.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming that's probably why the FBI isn't like all over this too.
Oh yeah, wait till you hear my opinion on that.
Yeah, but again, and this reminds me of a case that we saw on Unsolved Mysteries, the new Unsolved Mysteries series, where the kid went to a party and disappeared from the party, and then they searched and searched and searched, and then
he was found across the street in the field.
Yeah, a month or so later.
Yeah.
I mean, this kind of thing happens.
It really does. Unfortunately, it does.
Exactly. Not like, So yeah, if I'm, who's not an expert by any means, who, my sole exposure to these cases is Unsolved Mysteries and Criminal Minds. If I'm thinking of examples, I think their methods might be a little too loose here.
Well, that and just watching their series on Oxygen, which was a good series, don't get me wrong, and again, we'll break it down a little bit more by individual cases in a second. But even their quote-unquote experts that they bring on to give their opinion, they choose what to accept and what to dismiss and just be like, well, whatever. A little bit. You know what I mean? Like...
Yeah. I was going to say, that doesn't lend to your credibility there.
Yeah, and again, this is my opinion. So... But
right. Okay. So far, neither one of us are convinced by their 5 reasonings. But so here we go. One last attempt. Number 5.
Yeah.
Okay. Staging remains. Another detail Gannon and Duarte believe points to the fact that the men were abducted, drugged, and murdered before being placed in the water is that some of the victims' remains appear to be staged. When police located the body of 22-year-old Todd Gieb in a previously searched leg 3 weeks after he went missing, Gieb's head and shoulders were sticking out of the water as if he had gone for a swim, according to case studies in drowning forensics by Kevin Gannon and Dr. Lee Gilbertson. In the case of 21-year-old Chris Jenkins, his remains were found in the Mississippi River about 4 months after he disappeared, and he was discovered floating on his back with his arms crossed on his chest, according to the New York Daily News.
That might have been the bar one I was talking about last week.
Yeah. Quote unquote, it screamed homicide, Gannon told the Daily News.
Yep. So.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, bodies do different weird things in the water. I will say that.
Yeah, but this one, the people can't see me, and they'll have to look it up because obviously we can't share autopsy reports or anything gruesome like that. But he was found like this, floating. This is not how you die when you drown.
No, not usually. That's for sure.
Yeah. So, and he was the one that had I believe, if it's the right name, I can't remember all the names. You know how long it would take me to research 300 and something cases?
Yeah, I'm going to say 300 names. So, that's a little...
He's also the one that had the blunt force trauma to the back of the head, I think. If he's the one that went missing on Halloween night, in his costume and all. But I could be wrong.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, we spoke a little bit about... Now, if you break these cases down, even just the 6 episodes, or the 6-part series they put up, there's some weird stuff going on. And I do think some of these need to be reclassified, and a lot of them are undetermined because they can't prove accidental drowning. They can't prove if they were murdered. But again, I did the research for William Hurley, because that's the one we talked about last week. So that's what I'm basing this on. I think they're onto something if they were to look at them as individual cases.
Well, and I, to my way of thinking, that's a good thing. I mean, having an unsolved case like this is hard on the families and the friends of the victims. And, taking it out and giving it a fresh look, I think is a good thing, and having separate eyes going over the cases and just trying to get some answers is amazing. It's great.
Me too.
My concern is, are they trying to make it fit their narrative, or are they actually looking for evidence?
I agree. And I think it's a little both, because these guys, to me, legitimately seem to care. It individually. But to throw... I just don't think since, 96, 97?
Yeah.
That's 25 years ago? I can't do math, but I'm close, right? I averaged.
Yeah, roughly 25 years. So,
and the FBI... And their reasoning is, and these are their words, I'm going to what's the word? Ad-lib here.
Okay.
They think, because it's all based around, for the most part, colleges, and colleges bring in tourism, they bring in business, that the police departments don't want anybody to think there's a serial killer running around. So 300 cases, and every police department is just going to sweep it under the rug, and the FBI is going to back them up. Come on.
Yeah, I don't see that happening.
No.
And to my way of thinking, if you have over 300 cases and they're all legitimately connected,
the FBI would be all over that.
Yes, exactly. There would be a ton of evidence connecting it, and it would be, the FBI would be all over that. I don't see where they want it.
So, in my opinion, a lot of these cases need to be and should be re-looked at. But not as a gang killing, as individual incidences.
Right, exactly.
And they complain all the time about local law enforcement doesn't want to work with them. Again, they reference the college towns. And, well, you're saying you have over 300 cases done by serial killers. Of course they're not going to want to work with you. That's just crazy.
Yeah, I don't know. I have a really hard time believing that many cases that are connected, that they haven't been able to pull together enough to make it believable for other people.
Yeah.
So
I totally agree with you. So I did find news, true crime, never been caught. Does a smiley face killer even exist? And this was on News Daily. And I'm not reading this whole thing because we've already been over all of this, but I want to read the statement. In 2008, the FBI released a statement regarding the smiley face killer's theory. Basically, they also believe that the cases are just alcohol-related drownings. And this is quoted. The FBI has reviewed the information about the victims provided by 2 retired police detectives who have dubbed these incidents as smiley face murders, and interviewed an individual who provided information to the detectives to date. We have not developed any evidence to support links between these tragic deaths or any evidence substantiating the theory that these deaths are the work of a serial killer or serial killers. The vast majority of these incidents appear to be alcohol-related drownings. The FBI will continue to work with the local police in affected areas to provide support as requested. And here's just a little bit more. In 2010, the nonprofit Center of Homicide Research did a thorough investigation into the smiley face killers, and has pretty much debunked the theory. And it goes on. I'll make sure I'll share this one in the group as well, but I just wanted to make sure that we got the FBI, their words in there.
Yeah, and I think, Not that I'm saying I trust the FBI by any means. I mean, I watched that Waco thing. But I don't think that they would discount over 300 cases.
No, I don't think so either.
No.
I really don't. So
I think that's their problem. They were taking too many cases and trying to make it work.
Yeah. Like, if they very quickly here, I know we're about at that time, getting there, but the William Hurley case, again, if they were to do just this one and not try to lump it into the smiley face killers, they might be listened to, because he had blunt force trauma to the head, face, eye, in his lower body. He had a black eye, and it was swollen shut. Okay? He left halfway through the Bruins game because he was tired, but he was getting agitated. There was a large amount of GHB found in his body. And the girlfriend says he's talking to her on the phone the whole time. She was minutes away. She's like, okay, I'm here. Where are you? But you can't double park. If anybody's been to Boston, you would know. You got to go around the side of the old garden. So she drove around, and he was gone. She was right there.
Right. To me, that one did sound incredibly suspicious.
It does, and a lot of them do. I don't want to take away from that. I hate the blanket statement.
Right. Exactly.
So, and his phone was found the next morning. The battery was gone, and it was damaged, and the cops said it was run over, but yet it was kind of broken in half. So, it's just...
Yeah. A case like that, something happened. I think it definitely warrants more investigation. But then again, then there's other cases where they probably were an alcohol-related drowning, and the family just doesn't want to believe that.
Well, some of the families do. That's why they haven't gone on record. I told you about the one last week that the family, again, this is a guy that left the bar in his Halloween costume. His mother is adamant that it was an accident. She does not think it was related to smiley face killers. So.
Interesting.
Yep. So,
I say their top 5 list did not make me a believer, but it's an interesting theory to think about.
It is, but I just don't buy it. Again, individually, a lot of these cases should be relooked at. And I'm not a cop, I'm not an expert, so I can say a lot or a few and get away with it. But when you're giving data to the news people, you should be given actual numbers.
Right. So. Yeah. Exactly. If they had a little bit more proof, I think they'd be coming out with it. So,
and of course, they keep saying they don't know what we have.
Well, why not? Why aren't you sharing?
Exactly. One of the cases is an undetermined death by drowning, and they actually got a hold of more information than normal. They got the autopsy report. They got all this stuff. And nowhere on the autopsy did it point out certain injuries. Like, there was ligature marks around his neck to the point where it cut in. And the ring finger and the middle finger, I think of those the ones, had damage. And Cecil, something very famous guy, even said, everybody knew. So, I wish I could remember his name, because I'm only giving half-assed information here, but, so certain things stand out, but
that wasn't on the autopsy report?
It was not put on the autopsy report.
No.
And it might be the one that we just talked about in the Ohio River. I'm not sure, because I mix up all the names after a while. There's too many.
That many cases.
Excuse me.
Hard, which again, I really think they would benefit from going through and eliminating some of the ones that are not as closely tied together. And that way they can get a better grasp of this is exactly what we're looking for.
I wanted to throw that out there as an example. So sometimes people do make mistakes, and that many cases, even if you just went by the 40, there's no way I could remember every name, every town, and which one was which. But, so that's my final thing. I think some need to be looked into, definitely need to be looked into, and some should be reclassified as homicides. But I don't think there's a gang of serial killers working together for 25 years.
Yeah, and that's far apart, spread that far apart. I have my doubts.
Yep.
I have my doubts.
Yep. So, yep, that's my thing. I hope people comment or let us know what they think. If they believe it, don't believe it.
Yeah, maybe there's more information we don't have here that is more convincing. Maybe there's a real top 5 that is a lot more convincing than this top 5.
So far, I haven't gotten any information where somebody's like, "What? Are you crazy? How can you not see it? It's all the same." Yeah, individually, these are weird, but so we will see. We will see. All right, guys. On that note, I think it's time to wrap this up.
All right. Yeah. You can find us on Facebook in our Facebook group, Exploring the Unknown, with Rebecca and Shay Podcast. And, we share the articles that we talk about in the group. And if you have an article that you want to share with us, you can share it in the group and we'll read it on air and give you a special shout out.
Yeah. And if you want to be a guest, just let us know.
For sure. We're not mean. I promise.
Well, speak for yourself.
You know what? I'm not. Hey.
We balance each other out. No, seriously. Thank you, everybody, for the support. Thank you for listening. We really appreciate it.
Yep. Thanks, guys.